our center and can introduce you to what we're doing, and then we'll get on with the film. So my name is Tara Hoger, and I'm the founder and director of the UMA Center, and UMA is United Mothering Alliance, and that's here in Moscow. And I would like to thank our sponsors first, the Palouse Doula Association and Motherwise Midwifery, for their contributions to this event, as well as Ken Worthy for hosting it. They've been really great to work with us. And additionally, again, I just want to thank all you guys for being here tonight. Our panel, whom I'll introduce in more depth after the film, consists of local area birth workers. We have a physician, a licensed home birth midwife, a nurse midwife, a doula, and the leader of the ICANN group on the Palouse. It's our hope that this panel will not only provide a comprehensive spectrum of views on birth in response to your questions, but that this panel marks the beginning of momentum to further unify our birth communities. All too often, we find that birth workers in the medical field and home birth fields are separated in more of an antagonistic and unnecessary manner, which not only prevents positive dialogue and collaboration between the communities, but negates a woman's ability to get accurate information on her birth choices and can also lead to limited access to providers of her choice. Obviously, birth is not a neutral issue. Ask any woman who has given birth, or as I see many of you tonight are preparing to give birth, about your views and expectations for the process, and a distinct story based on your life views, experiences in the world, and a multiplicity of other factors from age and health will all come into play. Conversely, ask any partner who has supported a woman in childbirth, and the emotional content is often equal to the mother's, though focused on different aspects. How we birth in the long run influences how our societies are created, and women who have a voice in birth do have a voice in the world at large. As such, I'm going to begin this evening by explaining some of my own background in order to give you a better idea of how the UMA Center was created and why. So I'm a mother of three. I have an 8, 6, and 2-year-old. I've had 2 C-sections and 1 home birth. I'm trained as a doula, and up until the time that I began the UMA Center was working as a doula. I'm also a massage therapist of 10 years, trained in craniosacral therapy, and I continue to work with families as a whole, and specifically with pre- and postnatal period, as well as with infants. And of this time, I have spent 8 years working as a hospice therapist. I've been the integrative health coordinator for Gritman Medical Center, coordinating a variety of the complementary services and providing therapeutic touch in the birth center and on the medical surgical floor and in the ICU. So I've worked quite a bit with the different physicians and administrators in the area and really enjoyed bridging the worlds. I have also apprenticed at complementary health clinics of various kinds over the years in homeopathy and Chinese medicine, and I worked for a year at a fertility clinic in Scottsdale, Arizona. I'm currently completing my master's in applied ecopsychology, and the focus is on the intersection between the ecology of women's bodies and the ecology of the earth. So continue this focus back onto women and bodies and environment and birth and transitions in life. Grew up in Canada, lived in New Zealand, worked in many places in the United States, back and forth from the Palouse over the last 12 years. I got my anthropology degree from Washington State University back in 2001. So I come from this big mess of backgrounds that merges quite a few philosophies, and I've worked with a lot of different types of people over time. What this means is that I have met a lot of women under a lot of different circumstances, with a lot of different decisions being made in regards to their birth choices, and everyone has had the same goal. They want a healthy baby and a healthy mom. So I think it's time for us as women and mothers and practitioners, fathers, partners, members of the community to stop judging women for their choices and begin supporting them through the journey along to giving birth in a way that will fulfill their soul and help bring children into the world in a nurturing way. And in order to do this, I think we need to explore and then release our fears of what is a natural process and come back to real information about birth, rather than information fed by specific interest groups and economic drives. Excuse me. So the UMA Center then is a place where women and their partners can learn about the variety of birth options available to them here on the Palouse and obtain accurate statistics in this regard. It's also a place where women can learn more about options that are not currently available, such as freestanding birth centers, but which could be, and people have asked about, and we have some people here that have talked about creating at some point. So given the common American rhetoric that we have the safest birthing practices in the world, I'm going to give you a few important statistics I think we should consider. The US C-section rate in 1965 was 5%. By 2005, it had risen to 30.2%. The C-section rate that has been targeted by the World Health Organization and the US Department of Health and Human Services is 12%. And there's a good reason for this. Any C-section rate over 15% leads to increases in maternal mortality. That means women dying around the time of childbirth. In our local area, the hospital C-section rates for Moscow and Pullman have sort of fluctuated around the 40% rate over these last years. The ratio of women dying from C-section as opposed to women dying in vaginal birth is 4-to-1, which is fairly significant. And I think that's important to note because though we have made wonderful steps towards making this a safe technology and available when we need it, you know, there's been an overuse and the risks are still quite high compared to what is sometimes told. Interestingly then, despite the fact that we tend to have this concept that we are the safest in the world, there are 41 other countries that have lower maternal mortality rates than the United States. So that means 41 other countries have lower incidence of women dying around the time of childbirth. 22 countries have lower infant mortality rates than we do. And evidence has shown that in general, okay, so I'm giving some specifics here, midwives are actually a safer option for birth around the world and within the US when you do, you know, comprehensive look at comparative studies. So what I found interesting when you compare all these statistics and come into it, all of the countries in which midwives are the primary providers, all 100% of those countries have lower infant mortality rates than we do. So again, these are not being cited to pit one group against another, but just to give a more accurate picture of the current state of the American birth model. I think in order for a woman to truly be able to choose between her options, she must know the realities. And so where's some of this come from, just to give it a bit of a background? There's been what I think is an unfortunate trend on the part of the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology, known as ACOG, to distort some of the facts, and there has still continued to be an age-old trend of witch hunts with midwifery. And until we can understand this tactic for what it is, I think the statistical realities of birth practices on both ends of the spectrum are going to remain hidden to the public and make it that much more difficult to get that accurate picture. An excellent book that further elucidates these ideas is Born in the USA. It's How a Broken Maternity System Must Be Fixed to Put Women and Children First. The author is Martin Wagner, and he's a perinatologist who's worked not only within the US, but the World Health Organization as well. And his comprehensive data and perspective shed light on the current status of American care. He also demonstrates examples of better systems worldwide that are successfully providing a woman-centered care with low infant and maternal mortality rates. These systems tend to combine midwifery and obstetric care in an environment of support and collaboration, taking the best of what each world has to offer. The Netherlands is one excellent example. So the providers on our panel tonight will speak to the ways in which they are each attempting to improve our local birth model and provide care, resources, and options for the birthing women and families of the Palouse. As a local nonprofit chapter of Birth Network National, the UMA Center then, sort of coalescing all this, has an overall 5-statement belief. We believe that birth is a normal, healthy process, not an illness or a disease, that empowering births can take place in hospitals, birth centers, and homes, and maternity care should be evidence-based and woman-centered, that women are entitled to complete and accurate information on their full range of options for pregnancy, birth, postpartum, and breastfeeding, and women have a right to make healthcare decisions for themselves and their babies, and this includes informed consent as well as, and maybe more importantly sometimes, informed refusal. So our center is not only a place for more formal education and classes, it's also a place for women and families to gather, for informal groups to share wisdom and support. There's no religious affiliation, and we support the diversity of beliefs and family structures that are inherent to the modern family of today. Current group and class offerings include lactation support, natural childbirth education, infant massage, and Chinese medicine perspectives on women's health. In addition, we hope to be able to support adoptive families, LGTB families, and families who have experienced the death of a child. As with any community center, what each of you would like to see, and also what people are willing to put back into it, is how it will grow and diversify. Our groups are parent-led, and we welcome your input and ideas. One piece that I haven't mentioned yet, but obviously is a need, is for fathers groups, multiple fathers groups. The UMA Center is also not funded by any one specific entity. The people of the Palouse can support our mission by becoming a yearly member through the website, making a donation, all the typical nonprofit elements. And the practitioners who are listed on our provider resource directory and who teach classes and participate in our lecture series, which we have some information out there. That's going to be the first Thursday of each month at the Book People, starting at 6:30. We'll be on a variety of topics to do with, obviously, the childbearing years and women's health and family health in general. So all these practitioners also sign a statement that supports a very woman-centered birth model, and so we're all kind of on the same page. We're run by a board of 4, which I am one, and I was going to have Vivianne Fisher and Stacy Dunn and Amanda just stand really quick so I can just say thank you. It's just been wonderful to have these women on board, and yeah, renewed my excitement about everything. And so I just want to give a big thanks to all 3 of you. So many of you have seen Ricky Lake's first birth documentary, which was The Business of Being Born. And then she released a set of 4 shorter films called More Business of Being Born, in response to women's overwhelming desire for more dialogue and data. The film that we're viewing tonight is called Special Deliveries. So they're each, if you want to go out and look, we're going to show one at the VBAC night that's going to come up on the next lecture series, and another one on options. But if you get the set of 4 DVDs, just to know what you're getting into, that's what it's all about. So this one, Special Deliveries, is a collection of intimate birth stories from a diverse group of celebrity mothers, whether they chose to deliver at a hospital, home, or birthing center. These heartfelt and humorous testimonies speak to the lasting power of the birth experience. True inspiration for us all, this group of women trusted their bodies and intuitions, taking responsibility for their birth decisions even when things didn't go according to plan. None of these courageous women has ever spoken on the record in such compelling detail, and in this film, the stories are woven together with passionate narratives and celebration of journey to motherhood. You know, this comes off the DVD, but it's an accurate description of it, you know. And the reason we chose it when we all got together as a group and laughed pretty hard at a lot of the scenes in it was because it's really the best place to begin a unifying dialogue, you know, start with the empowering, positive nature of birth. And so that's what we really hope to do tonight. So the film's going to run about 75 minutes, and then we'll take a quick 10-minute intermission. There are concessions out there tonight, and I know most of you have seen the tables on your way in, but any information you need will be out there. And then we'll just come back in and go through it. Basically, we're going to go through, we hope to get as many questions as we can afterwards and really sort of pass along through the panel so that you can get a different perspective, excuse me, from each person, and I'll stay as far away from everybody as I can. Anyway, enjoy the film. I'm excited you're here, and